Alrighty, YouTube. This is Hajim Zero here, back with another, well, somewhat of a revamp of movie reviews. Like I said, I stated before, I believe, I don't know which video, that the first set of movies that were from my PlayStation, and these are the actual hard copies I own. This is the beginning of it. There's going to be a lot more movies I'm going to review on this. And this section, the ones that don't have any thumbnails are the old ones. That were from the hard drive on my PlayStation. But pretty much, excuse my bed, I'm doing my laundry and stuff. But some of these might be genre based. Well, most of them. So this first set is going to be animation, CG, and anime and well, you can call it cartoon or animation on one of the movies the Justice League movie I have. I'm going to review. You guys see it, so I'll talk about it. But this one's Resident Evil Degeneration. It's in the game timeline. It isn't the one with Mila Jovovich in it. Even though I have those too, and from the tone of my voice, you know, this slight, somewhat displeasement, but we'll break every single one of them down. So, you guys can look forward to that. For anyone who played the games, I'm not going to go into the much detailed history because there's many videos that talk about that. But pretty much the whole premise of the game is that, well, the first part of the game is there's a corporation called Umbrella, and they're making and manufacturing bioorganic weapons that turn people into zombies and plant-like creatures, and they just do extraordinary things, experimenting with different viruses found here on the planet. Pretty much what really makes this is that it's a multiple narrative story from the games and from the CG movies. So with this particular one, I think only about 2 characters appear in this movie that are from the game, and it does set up the stages a little bit for Resident Evil 5, the game. One of the main corporations that were doing their experiments in Africa, this was their beginning test bed of buying out one of the other corporations that started a whole destruction at the airport of what you see right now. And it was a whole big, corporation stocks chess patty cake. So I think it takes place. Yeah, I stated, yeah, it takes place before Resident Evil 5. Leon Kennedy, who's one of the main characters from Resident Evil 2, is in this, and Claire, the second protagonist you play with in the game, which is the female character, the redhead. And what I like about all of these CG movies, if you take, again, the lore out of it, it's still a good movie. Like, you take the characters out. Of course, I had to put Resident Evil just to sell the title. Especially with the last one they recently made. I can't wait to review that one. But we're going to talk about this one, mostly. Technically, with the story, it was just pretty much what I just said. It was really setting up the events of Resident Evil 5, that corporation that had bought out. Will Farmer was the manufacturing company known there, and then they were also working with Umbrella that had been disbanded at that point. But they still had a lot of the bioweapons, and they were still experimenting with the dangerous virus. But overall, this CG movie was pretty good. This is the part where I talk a little bit technical. They're doing a very good job, and it's kind of funny how they don't get much recognition. I guess it's because of the violence and whatnot. And I say recognition, like, you have big powerhouses like Pixar and DreamWorks, Pixar being the top now. And it's kind of funny how what I noticed in the last couple of years of animation, they really haven't put, for number one, they haven't put classic animation back in theaters. The last one I could think of was Princess and the Frog, but everything else, kid related or animation related, it's been CG films. And again, I would like for it to come back to traditional animation. The only property or segment I can think of where both were utilized in the same film was the anime Blue Submarine #6. And it's kind of funny how both powerhouses of animation styles won't collaborate because I believe they'll make a lot of money. Uh, because Blue Submarine #6, when I saw it, it was awesome, and I saw the edited version when it came out when I was a kid. So and again, when we get to the Animatrix, uh, when I review the whole Matrix series, I'll talk about more in detail on that. But uh, the more these movies had went on with Resident Evil, their animation and motion capture had got better and better. It could be because of the Blu-ray or the TV, depending on what TV you have it on. But there's just a lot of little details, that you don't see, or they put into it, especially with the last one. But on this one, you can really see the evolution of how much detail oriented it went to much later on. You know, I wouldn't say it'll fool the eye of any person that would think that they're real people, the casual moviegoer that really isn't into animation. But, luckily with all the technology we have now, especially with the Maya programming and then combining it with other tools, we can get the animation done a lot quicker. Because look at Toy Story. It took them like, what, 5 years to make that movie. And even that was a risk. Steve Jobs was involved in it, and they did a very, very good job. Again, they had took their time, as many good land-breaking projects do. But with this one, it really wasn't that scary. It is a survival horror video game, and plus it takes place in between two games. Two games that are action oriented, and hopefully, since Resident Evil 7 is out, they will actually make one that is scary. They did have some moments from the game where it was like close quarters in, where you felt a little bit claustrophobic and you couldn't really run anywhere, and that was that was a fear of the original game, and what they brought back in 7, which I give them a lot of credit because I haven't played 7. I don't have a PS4 yet, and it's not really on the top of my list because I still have other games to play, but it's just looking at the scale. It would really frighten a person who was super claustrophobic, and they're not even there in the environment. Just looking at it, it'll possibly might freak them out. Uh, the good thing with this film, it did more callbacks to the game. Resident Evil 2, the final boss. The final boss name was Birkin, and on here it was a character named Curtis. And he had a giant eyeball on the shoulder, and he was a scientist. I think he was a scientist in this movie. The good thing about this movie with the villain is that you really did feel bad for him. They did the formula again in the third movie, the third CG movie, but it was a tad bit of a mix-up difference. Again, I'll talk about it, but what happened in the game was that the main city that Resident Evil 2 and 3 were taking place in, it got bombed. And with the villain, his family was there, and of course they wouldn't let people back into the city. And he's now unleashing bio weapons in the airport, and he was planning to sell it on the black market and all that. And it was just a tragic story. The female protagonist is his sister and was working with Leon and was giving him information about him. And again, it was just one of those tragic stories out of all the Resident Evils. That particular villain pretty much you had pity for him. I ain't gonna say empathy because you're still doing a bad thing, but it's under at least like saying if he was staying in trial in court, he would get a little bit less time for what he did because he actually had a motive and a reason why he did it. It wasn't, even though it was planned and premeditated, he had a reason. But the law is the law. I really enjoyed this film when I first got it. It was a cool stepping stone. At first, I was like, man, this is lame. They're making a CG movie, and when I heard more and more that people were saying it was better than the live action ones, and they even talked about making this particular title a game. I was like, okay, let me look at it, and I was like, it wasn't that bad. On a scale of like 1 to 10, I give it an 8, just because you know, it was just them, stretching their wings and starting out and whatnot. Hopefully, for the next CG movie, it'll be more characters or something new we definitely haven't seen and haven't really thought of. Hopefully, some of the old characters will return, and again, I'll talk about that when we get to the third movie, because one major character had returned that we haven't seen in a while. Uh, Hopefully, Capcom makes other CG properties. Potential, and of course, Devil May Cry, Mega Man. Hopefully, Street Fighter. They've done the basic anime uh, 2D animation, but the last thing I heard them do was with Street Fighter 4, and that wasn't that bad. But you just kind of want more. Me personally, because I'm a Street Fighter fan, so, and as well as a Resident Evil fan. But hopefully they do more properties. Even Darkstalkers, I would love to see that. That's just spilling out some of their titles. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Hopefully we'll talk about in the comments section. And talk to you guys later. Peace.